The iron hissed loudly as steam curled into the air, filling the small boutique with heat and the faint scent of fabric starch. Anika stood behind the counter, carefully pressing a delicate silk dress. Her movements were precise, practiced, controlled. To anyone watching, she looked like a woman who had her life together. But inside she was tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of watching everyone else move forward while she remained stuck. The bell above the shop door rang suddenly. Ding. She didn't look up immediately. Footsteps entered, slow, uneven, dragging slightly across the wooden floor. Something about the sound made her pause. Before she could turn, a voice, low and strangely cheerful, broke the silence. "Hi, sweet babe." Her heart skipped. And then, hands gripped her shoulders. Rough. Unexpected. Before her mind could catch up, a man leaned forward and pressed his lips against hers. The iron slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. Her eyes widened in shock. Time froze. When he pulled away, she finally saw him clearly. A Korean man, around 35. His hair was messy, unwashed. His beard uneven. His clothes looked like they hadn't been changed in weeks. His eyes wild, restless, unfocused. He smiled like nothing strange had happened. Then he turned and began walking out of the shop. For a moment, Anika stood frozen. Her heart pounded. Her thoughts scrambled. This was wrong. Completely wrong. But then, something shifted. A strange calm spread through her chest, like a heavy storm had suddenly gone silent. The anxiety she had carried for months disappeared. The loneliness gone. She looked at his back as he walked away. And instead of anger, she felt drawn. Deeply. Uncontrollably. "Wait," she said softly. Her voice didn't even sound like her own. He didn't turn. He just kept walking. And without thinking, Anika stepped forward. Then another step. And another. She walked out of her boutique, leaving everything behind. 2 weeks earlier, Anika had been sitting alone in her apartment, staring at her phone. Another wedding post. Another smiling couple. Another reminder. She tossed the phone aside and leaned back against the couch, covering her face. "Why is it so easy for everyone else?" she whispered. Her reflection in the dark TV screen stared back at her. Beautiful. Successful. Alone. That night, she met her friends at a small restaurant. They laughed, ate, shared stories. But Anika's smile never quite reached her eyes. At some point, the conversation shifted. "Anika, you've been quiet," Toriro said, watching her closely. "I'm just tired," she replied. "Of what?" "Of being alone." There was a pause. One of the other girls leaned in slightly. "There's something you could try," she said cautiously. Toriro immediately frowned. "Don't start." But the girl continued anyway. "There's a man. He helps people spiritually." Anika looked up. "What do you mean?" "He does rituals. Especially for love." Toriro shook her head. "No, absolutely not. That's not something you mess with." But Anika didn't look at Toriro. Her attention was locked on the idea. "Does it work?" she asked quietly. The girl hesitated. "People say it does." That was enough. The place was hidden away, far from the noise of the city. Dimly lit. Silent. Unsettling. Anika sat across from the man, her hands clasped tightly together. He studied her for a long time before speaking. "You want love," he said. It wasn't a question. She nodded. "I want someone who chooses me, who stays." The man leaned forward slightly. "What if I told you that you could have that? But not in the way you expect?" Anika didn't hesitate. "I'll take it." He smiled faintly. Then his voice dropped lower. "The first man you kiss after my ritual will be bound to you. And you to him." Something about the words felt heavy. Dangerous. But Anika pushed that feeling aside. "I understand." The ritual began. The air filled with smoke. Strange chanting echoed around the room. He gave her a dark, bitter liquid to drink. Her body felt warm, then cold. Her head spun. But she didn't stop. At the end, the man looked directly into her eyes. "Be careful," he said slowly. "Because once it begins, it does not easily end." But Anika was already standing. Already thinking about her future. She didn't listen. Back in the present, she followed Jundini into the streets. He walked without direction, without purpose. And she followed without question. Hours turned into days. Days into nights. She didn't go home. She didn't return to her shop. She stayed with him. He spoke nonsense sometimes. Laughed at invisible things. Argued with people who weren't there. But to Anika, None of it mattered. When he looked at her, she felt complete. When he walked away, panic rose in her chest. So she never let him get far. They slept on pavements, shared scraps of food, ignored the stares of strangers, ignored everything. In her mind, she had finally found what she had been searching for. Love. Toriro searched everywhere, called her phone endlessly, visited her apartment, her shop. Nothing. Until one afternoon, she saw her, across the street, barefoot, dirty, following a man who looked completely unstable. "Anika," she whispered. She ran toward her. "Anika." Anika turned slowly. For a moment, recognition flickered in her eyes. Then it faded. "This is my husband," she said calmly, holding onto Giundini's arm. Toriro's heart broke. "This isn't you. Come with me." "No," Anika said, stepping back. "I belong here." That was when Toriro realized. This wasn't a choice. Something had taken her. That night, they forced her into a car, begging to be let go. But they didn't stop. They took Anika to the same witch doctor. The witch doctor listened in silence, then shook his head. "You rushed what should never be rushed," he said. "Fix it," Toriro demanded. He prepared another ritual. This one felt heavier, darker. When it ended, he spoke carefully. "She must kiss the same man again within 24 hours. If she does, the bond will break. And if she doesn't?" Toriro asked. He didn't answer immediately. "Then, it will remain." They searched all night. No sign of Giundini. Finally, someone told them he had been arrested. Hope returned. They rushed to the station. "Please, we need to see him," Toriro said. The officer shook his head. "Not today. You don't understand. He's involved in a serious case. You'll see him in court tomorrow." Tomorrow. The word felt like a sentence. They begged, argued, cried, but nothing changed. The next morning, they ran to the court. But time had already slipped away. The moment Anika saw him, her face lit up. She broke free, ran straight to him, smiling like everything was perfect. And just like that, she was gone again. Years passed. 3 of them. Anika lived a life no one could have imagined for her. On the streets, with Giundini, and eventually, with a child, a baby boy. Despite everything, she cared for him, protected him, loved him in the only way she could. But her world remained small. Just her, Giundini, and the endless streets. One morning, everything changed. Giundini didn't wake up. No laughter, no movement, no life. People said it was something he ate. Others didn't care. But Anika sat beside him, confused. She nudged him slightly. "Wake up." No response. She shook him harder. Still nothing. For a brief moment, she just stared at him, as if her mind refused to understand what her eyes were seeing. Then, something inside her shifted, like chains snapping, like a heavy fog lifting all at once. Her breathing changed. Her heart began to race, not with attachment, but with fear. Real fear. She looked around. The pavement, the dirt on her hands, her torn clothes, the child sitting beside her, watching her quietly. Her son. And then, it all came rushing back. The boutique. Her friends, the ritual, the kiss, the years she had lost. Anika let out a broken gasp and collapsed onto the ground. Tears came violently, uncontrollably, as if her body had been waiting years to release them. "No, no, no," she whispered, shaking her head. She crawled backward, staring at Giundini's lifeless body. For the first time, she saw him clearly, not as her man, but as a stranger, a broken man she had followed into darkness. And the weight of everything hit her all at once. "I left my life for this," she cried. Her son crawled closer and touched her arm gently. That small touch grounded her, pulled her back. She looked at him, really looked at him, innocent, unaware of everything that had happened. And in that moment, something else rose inside her. Not fear, not regret, responsibility. She pulled him into her arms and held him tightly. "I'm here now," she whispered through tears. "I'm here." The days that followed were not easy. There was no sudden miracle, no instant recovery. Anika had to face everything she had lost. Her business was gone. Her apartment was gone. Her reputation destroyed. Some people who recognized her whispered behind her back. Others avoided her completely. Even looking into a mirror was difficult, because the woman staring back at her was not the one she remembered. But this time, she didn't run. She didn't look for shortcuts. She didn't try to escape the pain. She faced it, one step at a time, with her son in her arms. Toriro was the first familiar face she saw again. When Anika knocked on her door, she hesitated. Not out of pride, but out of shame. When the door opened, neither of them spoke for a moment. Then Toriro pulled her into a tight hug, and Anika broke down again. "I'm sorry," she kept repeating. "I'm so sorry." Toriro didn't lecture her, didn't judge her. She simply said, "You're back. That's what matters." And for the first time since everything happened, Anika felt like maybe, just maybe, her life wasn't over. Months turned into a year, and slowly, piece by piece, she rebuilt. She started small, taking sewing jobs, fixing clothes for neighbors, saving every dollar she could. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy, but it was honest. And it was hers. Her son grew, laughing, learning, bringing light into her life in ways she never expected. He became her reason to keep going, her reason to stay grounded, her reason to never lose herself again. One morning, she stood in front of a small shop space. Empty, quiet, full of possibility. Her hands trembled slightly as she unlocked the door. This wasn't the big boutique she once had. This one was smaller, simpler, but it meant more. Because this time, she had earned it. She stepped inside and took a deep breath. "I'm starting again," she said softly. Months later, the boutique was alive again. Clothes neatly arranged. Soft music playing in the background. Her son sat in the corner, playing with a small toy, occasionally looking up at her with a smile. Customers came and went. Some knew her story. Some didn't. But Anika didn't hide anymore. She didn't pretend. She simply lived. Honestly. Carefully. With awareness she never had before. One evening, as she closed the shop, a young woman walked in hesitantly. She looked nervous. Lost. Familiar. "Can I ask you something?" the woman said. Anika nodded. "How did you find love?" she asked. For a moment, Anika didn't respond. She walked over slowly and looked at the girl. Then she said, quietly but firmly, "Don't chase it." The girl frowned slightly. "But what if it never comes?" Anika smiled gently. "Then you build a life so full that love has to meet you there." There was a silence. Then the girl nodded slowly and left. That night, Anika locked up her shop and stepped outside, holding her son's hand. The city lights glowed around them. Alive, moving, endless. She looked down at her son, then up at the sky, and for the first time in years, she felt at peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because she had learned, the hard way, that some things are not meant to be forced, and some decisions echo through your life longer than you expect. She tightened her grip on her son's hand and walked forward, not chasing anything, not running from anything, just moving with clarity. And somewhere deep inside her, a quiet truth remained. The kiss that once took everything from her also taught her how to never lose herself again.